Okay. Now, so in today's session, we are going to discuss about object-oriented programming, and we will see what exactly the object-oriented programming and what is the use, how we are implementing the business logic in object-oriented programming, and what kind of benefits that we have in object-oriented programming language, and what are the various principles or pillars of object-oriented programming language that we have, and how to use these principles upon implementing the business logic to make your code reusable, to make your code generic, to make your code secured. Then how can we use this object-oriented programming principles? Now let's see practically. So now let's see here. But already we have discussed in our initial concept of Apex programming that Apex is a cloud-based object-oriented programming language. Okay, Apex is a cloud-based object-oriented programming language. Because we have so many object-oriented programming languages are available in IT industry. Like we have Smalltalk, we have C++, Java, C#.NET, VB.NET, Visual C++.NET. Like that, so many object-oriented programming languages are available, but those programming languages are purely on-premise. Okay, those are purely on-premise programming languages. That means which requires the installation of that programming language software into your local system first. First of all, we have to install that programming language software into your local system. Then only we can use that features or principles in order to implement the business logic. But when coming to the Apex programming, Apex is purely a cloud-based. So no need to install anything into your local system. No need to maintain any prerequisite softwares, no need to maintain any prerequisite hardwares also. Just with the help of the browser and internet access, we can able to access that Apex programming language, and we can write some piece of code, we can implement the business logics, and then we can able to compile, we can execute, we can see the results also. So without having any pre-installations, without maintaining any hardware configurations inside the local system. Just by using the mobile also, smartphone also, use the browser, use the internet access, and then access the Apex programming directly without any explicit installations. So, when coming to the Apex programming, Apex is purely a cloud-based object-oriented programming language. Now, that already we have discussed, when coming to the programming languages, we are having 4 types of programming languages, or the 4 types of programming approaches are available in IT industry. What are those 4 types of approaches? Procedure-oriented programming, object-oriented programming, component-oriented programming, service-oriented programming, or message-oriented programming. These are the 4 types of programming approaches are available when coming to your IT industry here. Okay. Now, in this case, when coming to the Apex programming, Apex comes under the second category. That means object-oriented programming language. Okay, object-oriented programming language, where every business logic will be implemented in terms of classes and objects. Okay, every business logic will be implemented in terms of classes and objects. Now you can raise a question, sir, if it is a procedure-oriented, how the business logic will be? If it is a procedure-oriented programming or structured-oriented programming, the complete business logic will be implemented in terms of procedures or functions. Okay? Every business logic will be available in terms of procedures or functions. Like when you go to C programming, when you go to Pascal, when you go to BASIC, when you go to your RKills, PLSQL, in those programming languages, every business logic will be available in terms of procedures and functions only. But when coming to the Apex programming, Now, every business logic will be available in terms of classes and objects. Okay, because if I am writing the business logic in terms of procedure oriented, nothing but procedures and functions, at that time, there is no restriction. In procedure oriented programming, two major drawbacks are available. Okay, in procedure oriented programming, two major drawbacks are available. The first drawback is, in procedure oriented programming, we don't have the proper data restrictions. Whatever the procedure or whatever the function that you have written, that a procedure can be accessible by the entire application. In the entire organization, wherever you want, we can use that. There is no limitation. We can't restrict that. Like that procedure can be utilized by only this person and this person. Other people should not be able to access. But we don't have those kind of features in procedure-oriented programming. We don't have those kind of functionalities to restrict a procedure can be accessible by only these two people, not the other people inside the organization. We can't indicate the scope. We can't indicate the limit. So that is the first problem when coming to the procedure-oriented programming. Okay, and the second one is, okay, the second problem when coming to the procedure-oriented programming is, so now, whatever the procedures or whatever the data that you have stored, the data will be moving around the application over here. The data will be moving around the application. We can't restrict that here. To avoid the problems of procedure-oriented programming, they have introduced a feature called as object-oriented programming, where object-oriented programming is going to be providing the various facilities, various features through which we can able to define the scope for every member. We can define the limit for every member also. The possibility is there. Then how can we define those scope and how can we define the limitation of that? The members will see practically as part of object-oriented programming principles. Okay? Now make a note of this one. Object-oriented programming. Now, in procedure-oriented programming, we have the below two drawbacks. Below two drawbacks. The first one, the data will be moving around the application. The data will be moving around the application. And the second drawback is, we can't restrict the data to be accessible with the specified users. We can't restrict the data to be accessible by the specified users. That is, we can't define the scope of the data. We can't define the scope of the data. That means there is no data security. Okay, that means there is no data security. So now to avoid these two drawbacks which we have inside the procedure-oriented programming, we are using this object-oriented programming languages. Now, the object-oriented programming will overcome all the drawbacks of the procedure-oriented programming language. Object-oriented programming will overcome all the drawbacks of procedure-oriented programming. Now, when coming to the Apex programming, Apex is a cloud-based object-oriented programming language. Apex is a cloud-based object-oriented programming language which supports all the principles of object-oriented programming. Object-oriented programming is having some set of principles. All the principles are supporting by your Apex programming here. Apex is a cloud-based object-oriented programming language which supports all the principles of object-oriented programming. Now, So now in object-oriented programming, every business logic will be available in terms of what? Classes and objects, right? In object-oriented programming, each and every business logic will be implemented in terms of classes and objects. Now these classes are also called as controller classes. These controller classes are also called as business logics. Okay, now in this case here, now in this case, in object-oriented programming language, in object-oriented programming, all the business logics should be implemented in terms of classes and objects. In object-oriented programming, all the business logic should be implemented in terms of classes and objects. In object-oriented programming, all the business logic should be implemented in terms of classes and objects. So now in this case, you can raise a question, sir, what is this class? What is this object? What is the difference between a class and an object? What a class contains, what an object contains. How these are associated. Now let's see practically in this case. Okay, now. In this case, so when coming to the object here, whatever the things are available in the real world, okay, whatever the things are available in the real world, everything is nothing but an object. Like we have mobile, is nothing but an object. We have this system, nothing but an object. Fan, nothing but an object here. Whiteboard, nothing but an object. Person, nothing but an object. Everything. So whatever the things are available in the real world, everything is nothing but an object. It may be a fan, it may be a TV, it may be a chair, it may be a system, it may be a mobile, it may be a whiteboard, it may be a human being, person also, everything. Whatever the things are available in the real world, everything is nothing but an object. Where every object will be having some properties. Every object will be having some properties. Okay, like for example, assume that we are having this fan. Okay, we are having a fan. It is having some properties like type of the fan, color, weight, manufacturer, and then unit price. It is having some set of properties are available here. Now tell me, this is the only fan that we have in the entire world? No, we are having so many fans are available. Different types of fans are available. It may be wall fan, it may be stand fan, it may be like some ceiling fan, whatever, anything. All are fans. That means what here? The fan which you are looking at, okay, the fan which you are looking at is nothing but an object. The fan which you are looking at right now, that is nothing but an object. But all the fans are belongs to the fan class. Okay, all the fans are belongs to the fan class. This is also a fan which is having some property. This is also a fan which is having some property. That is also a fan which is having some property. But all the fans are belongs to the fan class. Now, for example here, assume that I am a person. I am also an object. I am having my own properties like my name, my age, my qualification, date of birth, gender, designation, salary, contact number, email address, address information, mailing address, all I am having the properties. Now in this case, he is also an object. He is having his own name, his qualification, his date of birth, and his age, his gender, and his address, everything. He is also one of the object here. She is also having her own properties, her name, qualification, date of birth, age, gender, and then address. She is having her own properties. But all are belongs to what? Human beings. Okay, all are belongs to the human beings class. We are all are human beings here. So that here, even though you may be having multiple objects here, all the objects are belongs to a specific class. We have been derived from a class. In this case, when coming to the real world, Whatever the things are available in the real world, everything is nothing but an object which is having some properties. But all those objects are belongs to the respective class. Okay, all are belongs to the respective class. Now, for example, come to a general scenario. Assume that, for example, God has introduced the human beings onto the earth. Okay, God has introduced the human beings onto the earth. Whenever the God has introduced the human beings onto the earth, He has introduced some set of properties. Every human being will be having some certain properties here. Now, for example, He has introduced that human beings onto the earth. Now, human being has introduced that human beings onto the earth. Now, upon introducing these human beings onto the earth, God has introduced some set of properties. He has defined some set of properties that every human being should have, like some name, age, date of birth, gender, qualification, and then contact number, that means the phone, email ID, and then address, and the designation, and the salary. Like that, He has introduced so many properties. Every human being should have all these properties here, like the name, age, date of birth, gender, qualification, phone, email address, address information, designation, salary. These are the various properties that every human being should have. Every human being should be having these properties. Now, today, a new person has been came into the world. Today, a new person has been came into the world. A new baby boy has been came into the world. Now, for example, in this case, now for this person we have given the name as some Ram Kumar. Okay, that new baby boy's name is some Ram Kumar. Now, in this case, he is also one of the human being, right? Yes. He is also having all these properties, right? Yes. As a human being, he will be having all these properties. He is having all these properties. Now, in this case, for these properties, he is having some values. What is the name of this new person? Ram Kumar. What is the age? Like as some 1 day. Now, date of birth, like as some December the 4th. December 4th, some 2019. Gender, male. Qualification, not applicable. He don't have any qualification right now. Phone number he is not having right now. Email ID he is having, he don't have that email ID. Address, some Hyderabad. Designation, he don't have the designation. Salary, he don't have that. Okay. Now, a new person has been came into the world, so now he is having some values for these properties. Okay. So now Ram Kumar is a new baby boy has been introduced into the world. So now here he is having some value for these properties. He is having the name, age, date of birth, gender value, and then address information. For few properties, he is not having the values because he is not eligible for all these things. In future, he will be adding the value for these properties also. For example, so now I have a person. Okay, I have a person. His name is some Santosh. His name is some Santosh Kumar. Now, in this case, he is also one of the human being, right? He is also having some values for these properties. Yes. So that in this case, he is also having the same properties. Okay. Now, in this case, he is also having some values for these properties. Okay. Now, he is also having some value for this property. His name is Santosh Kumar. His age is some 27 years. Date of birth, some June 10. Gender, some male. Qualification, some BTech. Phone number, he is having some value. Email ID, some santosh@some gmail.com. Address, some Bangalore. Designation, he is a developer. Salary, some 25,000. Now, he is having this one. Now tell me like this here, how many people are there in the world? So many people are there. Because every person is nothing but an object. Okay, every person is nothing but an object. But now in this case, all these objects are belongs to what? Human being class. He is also one of the human being and he is also one of the human being here. All are belongs to the human being class. So now here in this case here, now tell me here. So now this is what human being is what? Class. These are what? Objects. Now tell me for one class, how many objects we can have? Multiple. So a class can have multiple objects also. Okay, a class can have multiple objects. Okay, now for this class, we are having two objects right now. We can create some more objects also. Because each and every person in the real world is nothing but an object. So that, but all these objects are belongs to the human being class. We are having the fans. Now in this case, this fan is having some set of properties. It is having some manufacturing date, some expiry date is available. Now, like that it is having, this is also one of the fan, it's the latest manufactured, which is having some different warranty, which is having some different price, which is having different manufacturing date and a different manufacturer name and the different expiry date is available. But all are belongs to the fan class. We are having a mobile. So now mobile is nothing but a class from which we are having various models of mobiles from the different manufacturers with the different designs, with the different models, with different configuration, with the different features, with the different prices also. But all are belongs to the mobile class. So that a class can have one or more number of objects. A class can have one or more number of objects. Now tell me here in this case, I'm having this class, I'm having this object. Now, so this is one object here. This is the object 1. And this is the object 2. Now tell me, memory will be allocating for what? Class or objects? Memory will be allocating for what? Class or object? Why object? Why not class? Why we need the memory generally? To store some value. Where we have the values? In class or in object? Object. We are having the values in the object level here. So these are the values here. Ram Kumar, 1 day, data, age is 1 day. Date of birth, gender value, and then qualification value, phone number value, address value. These are the values are available. To store these values, we need some memory, right? Yes. So the memory will be always allocating for objects, not for the classes. Class won't occupy any memory. Class will be having some objects. Object will be having the value for that class members. Whatever the members are available, whatever the properties are available. So now for these members, we are going to be assigning the value through object. So object is having the value for the class members. So that to store these values, so we need some memory for that object here. Now in this case, this object will be having the memory. This object is also having the memory. Now tell me in this case, for both the objects, it will be allocating the same memory or different memory. Why different memory? Why not same? Values are different. That already you know the concept here. I'm having a variable, some integer x. It is reserving some 4 bytes of memory. By default value is what? Null. If I'm assigning some value, what value it will store inside that memory space? The new value which you have assigned. The previous value will be lost automatically here. That means what? At a time, that memory can able to store only one value. But here I'm having 2 people are available. Both the people are having some different values. In order to store these values, each and every object will be having that memory. This object will be having its own memory location. This object is having its own memory location. Now tell me in this case, both the objects will be having same size of memory or different size of memory. This is also a human being object. This is also one human being object. Will it be allocating the same amount of memory or different amount of memory? Now, in this case here, when coming to these objects are purely supporting dynamic memory allocation. dynamic memory allocation. That means whatever the fields are available, whatever the variables are available, for whom you have supplied the values, to store these values, whatever the memory is required, that much of memory will be getting reserved. Okay, that much of memory will be getting reserved. Now, as of now, we have discussed the primitive data types. Arrays also we have discussed, but there it is purely supporting the static memory allocation. Whenever I'm defining that variable, whenever I'm defining the object array, automatically memory will be getting reserved. Even though you may use that array, you may not use that array, memory will be getting reserved. At that time, if I'm using that array, then fine, no problem. If the array I'm not using, if I'm not referencing that array inside my application, then that array memory will be getting waste. There is a wastage of memory. But as a developer, it is our responsibility that we need to utilize the memory very efficiently. Whenever we need the memory, we need to consume it. Whenever the memory allocation, whenever the operation has been done, release the memory again. So that this memory can be allocated to some other applications, so that other applications can run without having any performance issues. For that one, now in this case also here, not only in the systems, in the real world also. Now, when coming to our homes, we are preparing the food, and then sometimes we are going to be having that complete food. Sometimes some food will be getting available to you. Some people are not visible during some occasions of functions, during some marriage occasions, festival seasons. We are preparing the food for the bulk people. Some food will be available here, but we are going to be wasting that food. But nowadays here what happened? Instead of wasting that food, we can able to give that food to the other people as well, to some orphanage people, or we can able to give that food to the other people also. Those people can able to utilize this. Like the similar way here also, whatever the memory that will not required for me, we need to release that memory, so that that memory will be getting allocated to the other objects also, so that we can able to run the application without any performance issues. If the proper memory is not available, our application can't run. So now here in this case here, as a developer, it is our responsibility. We need to utilize the memory very, very efficiently. Okay. Now, in this case here, when coming to that object 1, here we have entered the value for only for some members over here. We have entered the value for the name, age value, date of birth, gender, and the Hyderabad. Nothing but the address. In order to store these values, in order to store these values, whatever the memory is required, that much of memory will be getting reserved over here. For example, some 20 bytes is required. So it will be allocating 20 bytes of memory for this particular object. But when come to the second object, we are having so many values are available. To store these values, it requires some 40 bytes of memory here. So that much of memory will be getting reserved, it will be allocating to that object here. Because to store more values, more memory is required. To store less values, less memory. So that we can able to utilize the memory very, very efficiently. We can save the memory space also. So now here in this case, whenever I'm going to be using the objects are purely supporting dynamic memory allocation. So that depends upon the values which you have entered. For those values, whatever the memory is required, that memory will be getting calculated dynamically at runtime. Now tell me, who will calculate that memory? What is the keyword which will be calculating the memory allocation? New keyword, right? We are having that new keyword which is having the space complexity algorithm internally, which is identifying how much space, how much memory needs to be get allocated for this object or for this variable or for this array. It will calculate here. Now the new keyword is going to be calculating dynamically how much memory is required. How it is calculating based on the values which you have entered. Based on the values which you have entered, to store these values, how much memory is required, that much of memory will be getting allocating for this object. And then for the object 2, the new keyword is going to be identifying how many values are available, what type of values are available. Based on that, how much memory is required, it will calculate that much of memory will be getting allocated. So in this case, when coming to a class can have one or more number of objects. Okay, class can have one or more number of objects. Now, memory will be always allocating for the objects, not for the classes. Memory will be always allocating for the objects, not for the classes. To allocate the memory, we are using the keyword called as new. So that upon creating the object, we are using that new keyword because we need to allocate the memory here. Okay? Upon creating the class, we are not using any new keyword. Upon creating the object only, we are using the new keyword. So that new keyword is going to be calculating how much memory is required, that much of memory will be getting reserved. And upon allocating the memory, every object will be having its own memory location here. This object will be having its own memory. This object will be having its own memory. Because both the objects may be having same values also. Not only the different, if both the objects are having the same values also, memory will be always different. This object will be having a different memory location. This object will be having different memory location. Now, in this case, the memory size may not be same. Memory size may not be same. In this case, for this particular object, 20 bytes of memory. For this object, 40 bytes of memory. Because here we are having more values, here we are having less values. It depends upon the values which have entered. It will calculate how much memory is required, that much of memory will be getting reserved. Okay? Clear? Now, there is the relation between a class and an object. Now let's see the concept here. So now in this case, what exactly a class basically? Now, simply in general word, I can say, for example, I'm having some valuable things along with me. Like I'm having some property documents, jewelry, some money, some gold I'm having with me. Now I want to protect these items from the other people in my family. Then what we can do generally? I want to save, I want to protect these items from the other people inside the family itself. Whenever I need it, I would like to use that here. My family members can use, other people can't use that. In this case, what we are going to do, whatever the valuable things are available, we'll collect all the valuable things. We are placing inside a cupboard, we are making a lock on that. Okay? We are placing all these valuable things inside a cupboard, we are making a lock on that. Now the people who are having the key, only those people can able to unlock it and they can able to use the items, whatever we have inside the cupboard. Okay? Whatever the people are available, nothing but whatever the people are available in my family, those people are having the key, they can unlock that cupboard and they can able to use the items whatever we have placed. Because my family members can use those items here, the jewelry, money, my family members can use. Not the outside people, not the other people here. So in this case, to protect my items from the other people, I am going to be placing inside a cupboard, I am making a lock on that. Other people can't access it. Like the similar way, whatever the members that I am defining, okay, whatever the members I'm defining, whatever the variables I'm defining, whatever the properties I'm defining, whatever the methods I'm defining, I'm grouping all the items together. Okay, I'm grouping all the items together inside an entity that is called as a class. When coming to the class is like as a cupboard which will be having so many items inside this. Those items may be the members of the class. Those items are called as members of the class. That member may be either a variable, it may be a property, it may be a constructor, it may be a procedure, it may be a function, whatever, combination of all. So that when coming to a class contains a collection of members inside this. Class contains a collection of members inside that. Now here also, the class will be having so many properties over here. Name property, age property, date of birth, gender, qualification, phone, email ID, all these are properties of the person. So now all these things we have grouped together inside a class. When coming to a class is like as a cupboard which contains so many items inside this, which contains so many members inside that. Those members may be either variables or properties or constructors or procedures or functions. All these things we can group together inside a class. We'll see what exactly each and every functionality, procedures, functions, properties, constructors, everything we'll see one by one concepts over here. Okay, now, in this case, whenever if you want to get the items inside that cupboard, we need to unlock it. To unlock that, we need the key. In this case, like the similar way, inside my class, I'm having so many members are there. If you want to access these members, first of all, we have to unlock this class. In order to unlock that, we need a key. That key is nothing but an object. That key is nothing but an object here. So now in this case, object is nothing but working like as a key where we can able to unlock this class, we can able to access all the class members whatever we have. For these class members, we are going to be assigning the values. Now all these properties are nothing but what? These are the members of the class over here. These are the members of the class. For these class members, we are assigning some values. So now in this case, when coming to that object is working like as a key, which is used to unlock that class, and we can access all the class members and we can assign the values. So in this case, when coming to the object is called as an instance of a class. Object is called as an instance of a class. So the object is a logical entity. Object is a logical entity. Now, for example here, in this case, logical entity in the sense what, basically? For example, here I am having this object. For this object, we have allocated some memory. We have stored some values. Where this memory will be available? Inside my system, inside my hard disk, inside my storage space. Can you look into that hard disk? No. It's invisible. We can't see. It's a logical thing, which will not be visible to you here. But the structure will be getting visible to you, but the values which are present will not be visible over here. Because values are nothing but the very confidential information that will not be visible. So that when coming to a class is nothing but a physical entity. Class is a physical entity which contains some set of members inside it. A class is a physical entity. This is also called as a blueprint, which contains some set of members inside this. Those members may be either a variable, or a procedure, or a function, or a property, or a constructor. All these members we can able to define inside a class. In order to access that class members, we need a key, we need a reference that is called as an object. When coming to the object is nothing but an instance of a class through which we can able to enter into the class, we can access the class members. For those members, we can assign some values. Okay, we can assign some values. In order to access that class members, we need a reference. That reference is nothing but an object. So at that time, for a class, we can have one or more number of objects. Each and every object will be holding some different values for class members. This object is holding some different values, and this object is holding some different values for that class members. In this case, each and every object will be having its own memory location. This object is having its own memory location. This object will be having this own memory location. Now, in this case, when coming to the object, these are purely supporting dynamic memory allocation, so that depends upon the number of values we have entered, depends upon the number of values we have supplied to store these values, how much memory is required, that much of memory will be getting allocated for the object 1. For the object 2, it is allocating some different amount of memory because it is having some more values are available. To store these more values, we need more amount of memory space. So that every object will be having its own memory location, every object will be having its own capacity of the memory location also. Okay? Clear? Understood the concept here? Class and the object. Any questions? Because the entire programming will be purely on classes and objects only. Okay? Now make a note of this one. Class. So what exactly a class? Class is a physical entity. Class is a physical entity or blueprint. Okay, or a blueprint. Nothing but it's a prototype. It's a structure. It's a model which represents what are the members are available. Class is a physical entity or blueprint which contains a set of members inside it. Which contains a set of members inside it. Which contains a set of members inside this. A class can have one or more variables, properties, procedures, functions, and constructors. A class can have one or more variables, properties, procedures, functions, and constructors. So inside a single class, we can able to place all these members. Like inside a family, we are having some people are working, the people are living together. Now in this case, those people are calling us the family members. Like the similar way inside a class, we are having so many members are there, like the variables and the properties, procedures, functions, constructors. These are all are the members of this class. Okay. Now, in this case here, once the class is available, then if we want to access that class members, we need a reference or we need a key, we need an instance that is called as an object. Okay, that is called as an object here. Now let's see the object. Now, once the class has been defined, by placing the required members inside it, to access the class members, we need a reference or key or an instance is called as an object. Once the class has been defined by placing the required members inside it, to access the class members, we need a reference or a key or an instance which is called as an object. Which is called as an object. Object is a logical entity. Logical entity which holds the values for the class members. Object is a logical entity which holds the values for the class members. For every member defined inside the class, we are assigning some value with the help of this object. Object is holding the value for the class member. Now, in this case, by using this object, what we can do? By using that object here, we can able to access that class member. We can assign the value, we can retrieve the value also. For that class member, whatever the value is available, I would like to access that value, or else we can assign the value also. That means we can perform read operation, write operation both. That means with the help of this object, we can perform read and write operations on your class members. That means whatever the variable we have defined inside the class, for this member, we can assign some value. Suppose if this member is already having some value, we can able to retrieve the value also over here. So we can retrieve the value, we can assign the value to the class member through with the help of objects. Object is having the capability to enter into the class, and then with that the object we can able to get the value of the member and we can assign the value to the member also. Both the possibilities are available. We can perform the read operation, write operation also. Both we can do. Okay. Now, in this case here, by using the object, we can assign the values to the class members, and we can retrieve the values from the class members. That is, we can perform both read or write operations. Write operations on the class members. That is, we can perform both read or write operations on the class members. Now tell me how many objects that we can have for a class. Only one or multiple? Multiple objects. Do we have any limitation? No, there is no limitation. For a class, we can have n number of objects also. Okay, now make a note point. A class can have one or more objects. A class can have one or more objects. A class can have one or more objects. Now tell me, each object will be occupying the same memory or the different memory? Different memory, right. Each object contains its own memory to hold the values for the numbers. Each object contains its own memory to hold the values for the numbers. Each object contains its own memory to hold the values for the numbers. Now tell me what kind of memory allocation this object will support. Static or dynamic? Dynamic memory here. Now tell me, in dynamic memory allocation, do we have any chance of memory wastage? No. We can utilize the memory very, very efficiently. If it is a static memory allocation, the memory will be fixed, which we can't increase, which we can't decrease. There is a fixed size, so that memory size can't grow, memory size can't shrink at runtime in the static memory allocation. But sometimes we need to manage the memory very efficiently. Whenever I need it, I would like to expand. Whenever I don't want, I would like to decrease that. So for that one here, we need a feature like as expand and collapsible feature. Whenever I want to consume the memory. Whenever I don't want, I will release the memory here. Okay, for the memory allocations. So now in this case, when coming to the objects are purely supporting the dynamic memory allocation, where dynamically it will calculate the required amount of memory. Dynamically, it will calculate the required amount of memory, and that much of memory will be getting reserved. Okay, so that each object will be having its own memory, and its own size of memory is different. Depends upon the number of values which we have stored inside that object. If I am storing less values, less memory. If I am storing more values, more memory will be getting occupied. Okay, now let's make a note of this one. Objects are purely supporting the dynamic memory allocation. Dynamic memory allocation. Now, which avoids the memory wastage. Which avoids the memory wastage. Which avoids the memory wastage. Now, so now where this memory will be getting allocated? Inside the stack memory or inside the heap memory? Heap memory. Now in this case here, if there is a fixed size, like as primitive data type integer, 4 bytes, decimal, 8 bytes, double, 8 bytes, okay? Like that, there are some fixed sizes are available. Now for those particular primitive data types, the memory will be allocating inside that stack memory. Stack memory will be having very less amount of memory, there it will be getting allocated because it's a fixed sizes available. But here, the memory will be variable. Memory is variable, that means different. For one object, 20 bytes. For another object, 40 bytes. For another object, 80 bytes. For another object, 120 bytes. Depends upon the values which you have stored. So that there is no fixed sizes available. Depends upon the number of values we have stored, the memory has to be get calculated at runtime, that much of memory has to be get reserved. So that here, in this case, all the objects memory will be getting allocated inside that heap memory, not in the stack memory here. Okay, all the objects information will be getting resides inside the heap memory, because heap memory is nothing having that more storage spaces available inside your Salesforce instance. Okay, now in this case it is going to be storing that all the objects information inside that heap memory. Okay, now make a note here. For objects, memory will be allocated inside the heap memory. For objects, memory will be allocated inside the heap memory. For objects, memory will be allocated inside the heap memory. Okay, understood the concept of class and the object? Because in object-oriented programming, every business logic has to be get implemented in terms of class and object. Inside that class, we are going to be writing the business logic. Okay, we are writing the business logic inside that class. In order to invoke that business logic, we need a reference, we need a key that is called as object. Okay, now with the help of the object, we can able to invoke the business logic over here. We can access that class members, we can assign that. Okay, now in this case, whenever we are going to be implementing the business logic in terms of object-oriented programming, at that time we have to follow some certain principles. Okay, we have to follow some certain principles. Object-oriented programming language is providing so many principles to you. We have to follow those principles. Okay, now. So what are the various principles are available? Principles of object-oriented programming. I think most of the people are aware of this. Upon implementing the business logic by using object-oriented programming approach, we have to follow some certain principles. These are also called as pillars of object-oriented programming language. Okay, these are also called as pillars. These are the standards. These are the rules. These are the best practices we need to follow, okay, upon implementing the business logic with the help of object-oriented programming languages. Now, can you give me that? What are the various principles that you are aware of object-oriented programming? Anybody from computer background? Inheritance, abstraction, inheritance, polymorphism, encapsulation. Okay, encapsulation. So basically, when coming to the object-oriented programming, we have four basic principles are available, like encapsulation, abstraction, inheritance, and polymorphism. Okay, four principles are available. So what each principle describes, what each principle indicates to you. Each and every principle is giving some significance. It is giving some functionalities. It is giving some best practices. Now, what each principle indicates to you, now let's see practically one by one. It's a common question in most of the interviews. Like, what are the various principles of object-oriented programming? Then you should be able to explain. So, we have four principles of object-oriented programming. One is encapsulation, second one abstraction, third one inheritance, fourth one polymorphism. These are the four principles are available. Okay. Now, let's see each and every principle one by one. Okay. Now, so we have the below four principles of object-oriented programming. First one, encapsulation. Second one, abstraction. Third one, inheritance. Fourth one, polymorphism. These are the four principles are available. These are the four principles of object-oriented programming. Now let's see each and every principle one by one. Now, so what do you mean by encapsulation? Encapsulating is nothing but what? Binding. That means what? Grouping. Okay, grouping some set of related numbers together. Okay, now, for example here, assume that I'm having an object. In my object, I'm having so many fields are available. I'm having so many fields are available. It may be standard fields, custom fields, whatever. In this case, are we representing all these fields inside a single section? No. We are going to be segregating the fields to the various sections. That means the basic account related information fields I am going to be grouping into a section called as account information. All the address related fields I am grouping into a separate section called as address information section. Additional information related fields I am grouping into a section called as additional information section. That means what? Based on my convenience. Okay, based on my convenience. According to my requirement, according to my convenience, I am going to be grouping a set of numbers together inside this. I can show all the fields inside a single section also, no problem. Okay. So I can show all the fields inside a single section also, no problem. Salesforce won't restrict that. Salesforce will allow us to place n number of fields also inside a single section. There is no limitation. But according to my convenience, for my understanding, for the better readability, for the better understandability, what I am going to do is, instead of placing all the things inside a single section, I am going to be grouping a set of related numbers together into a separate section. Account information section, I am grouping all this information here. Now all the address related fields I am going to placing inside a separate section, because in future if you want to make any changes related to address, directly we can go to the address information section, make the changes over there. If I am placing all these fields inside a single section, then we need to search where the address information. It will be very difficult. For that one, based on my convenience, I am going to be arranging this. Why? Because when coming to the application development of the application is not important. We can put some efforts. Okay, we can put some effort up to maximum of some 6 months or 1 year max, and we can develop the application. But application development is not important. Giving the support is important here. Development is only one time. We have to give the lifelong support to the customer. At that time, upon giving the maintenance, upon giving the support to the customer, then it should be very easy to maintain. We no need to make the application complex. If upon developing the application, if we are making it as complex, then upon maintenance it will be very horrible. Okay, upon giving the maintenance, upon giving the support, it will be very too difficult, it is very horrible. So for that one, upon developing the application, don't make that application complex, divide it into the various small pieces. So that here, in that piece, some set of features related together. In this feature, set of related together. Okay, now, like the similar way. For example, I'm having a notepad application here. Okay, I'm having a notepad application. In this notepad application, we can do so many functionalities. We can prepare some plain text kind of documents without any images, without any pictures, hyperlinks, nothing. Only the plain text type of documents we can do. In this case, I can open a new document also. I can able to write some content inside this. I can save this document, and I can able to copy some of the information. I can able to paste somewhere. I can able to search for some content also. Multiple options are available, but all the options are not available inside a single menu. Now, in order to maintain that file related, all the options, like as to create and to open a new file, and to open an existing one, to save the file, and to print that file, to close the file, whatever the features are required, they are going to be grouping together inside a separate menu. These are the menu items are available here. And then to perform some editing the document, if you want to modify the document content, then go to the edit menu here, which is having all the features to edit the documents over here. That means what? They are building so many features, they are going to be grouping together into the various entities. Okay. Now, in this case here, we are going to be segregating that functionality to the various entities here. Now, like the similar way. For example, assume that I'm having a banking application. Now, this ICICI Bank is offering the services for the various types of customers. The customer may be a personal customer, nothing but individual customer, or he may be a corporate customer, or he may be NRI customer also, whatever. For the individual customer, they are providing some different services. For the NRI customers, different services. For the corporate customers, different services they are offering. In this case, how can we differentiate? At that time, they are providing the various menus are available here. Now, when you place that mouse pointer here on this personal, that means for the personal customers, nothing but the people who are utilizing this banking services for their personal use, for their personal savings. At that time, for this individual customer, they are offering various products over here. These are the various products they have grouped together. Apply online option. These are the various features you can apply online. Payment related services. These are the various features. Ways to bank. These are the various features. Get in touch. Various features that they are offering. That means what? All these features they are grouping together inside an entity over here. Now, when you go to that corporate customers, once you click on corporate, for this one, they're providing different features, products, solutions, banking made easy, treasury research, get in touch, like that, they're offering some different options over here. Here, the options are completely different in this case. Okay, banking made easy, different options. Solutions, different solutions they're offering. Products, different products they're offering. That means what? They have segregated that here. Like the similar way, now all these features they are going to be grouping together into this products option. And this learning word solution related, all the features they are grouping together. And then getting touch related, they are grouping together. But all these things are grouping together inside that corporate. Like the similar way, whenever we are going to building any product also here. For example, assume that I'm having a mobile. Now that entire mobile is a single product, single part. No. Initially they are building so many parts, small parts over here. Like as a screen, keyboard, RAM, processor, and then storage space, like some hard disk, and then battery. They are going to be building each and every feature separately. They are going to be grouping together to make it as a product. Like the similar way here also, when coming to the encapsulation. What do you mean by encapsulation? Encapsulation is nothing but grouping together. We are going to be collecting some set of related members. Those set of related members we are grouping together into an entity here. That is called as encapsulation. Encapsulation is used to group a set of related members together. Okay? Encapsulation is used to group a set of related members together. Now, like the similar way, we can able to call it as encapsulation is nothing but grouping some set of data members and member functions. That means what? When coming to that encapsulation, encapsulation can be achieved with the help of two features in Salesforce. One is classes, second one is interfaces. First one is classes, second one is interfaces. Now, for example, if it is a class contains what? So many members. Only one member or multiple members are there? Multiple members. We are grouping all the members together into a class. So this is supporting the encapsulation functionality. So now encapsulation can be achieved with the help of two features in Apex programming. One is with the help of class, second one is with the help of encapsulation. Sorry, the second one is interfaces here. Okay, now, understood the concept here? Encapsulation is used to group a set of related members together. Okay, in order to group a set of related members together, we are going to be using a feature called as encapsulation. Encapsulating is nothing but grouping, binding, wrapping up that information together. Okay, understood the concept here? Now make a note of this one. Encapsulation. By using this feature, we can group a set of related members together into a single entity. Now, the note. Encapsulation can be achieved with the help of classes and interfaces. Encapsulation can be achieved with the help of classes and interfaces. These are the two features, okay, inside your Apex programming which help us to achieve the encapsulation. Whatever the related features together, whatever the related business logic we are implementing, okay, now the related business logic we can group together inside a class. Now, that means what? Instead of making those items independent, okay, instead of making those items independent, we can able to group together over here. Okay, now the next one, abstraction. What do you mean by this abstraction basically here? Abstract in the sense what? Hiding the data. Okay, now that is the use of that abstraction. Okay, right? For what? For the security purpose here. Okay, now here in this case, I think everybody has done, okay, your graduation or post-graduation, whatever. So during the graduation or the post-graduation, at the last semester, you have spent some almost 6 months of time on a project. Okay, the last semester is completely on the project. Now, before start working on a project, first of all, we need to submit the abstract to that college people, to the HOD or to the class teacher. We need to submit that abstract. What that abstract contains basically? It will be having that overview, nothing but the high level information of the problem on which you are going to work for the next 3 months or 6 months of time. That means what? Inside that in the abstract, we are going to be giving the high level information of the problem which you are going to solve, which you are going to implement, okay, for the next 2 to 3 months of time. Like, we can specify the project title and then the aim of the project here, and the problem statement, what exactly the current problem, and then proposed solution. This is the solution that I'm planning to implement, and these are the technologies I'm planning to use, and these are the team members here. That's it. It's like as hardly 1 page or 2 page max. We are giving that information. Now tell me, are we disclosing the whole information at the initial stage? Like, so this is the tables I'm going to create, this is the screens I'm going to create, this is the architecture I'm going to follow, these are the classes I'm going to design, these are the methods I'm going to implement, these are the statements I'm going to write, all these things? No. We are not discussing all these things because we are hiding that information. We are hiding that information. Something we are exposing, something we are hiding. Suppose, for example, if anybody asks your bank account number, then immediately we are exposing that bank account number because might be that person will credit some amount into my account. If the same person asks your bank account PIN number, then will expose? No, I'm not disclosing that because it's a secured information. Something I'm exposing, something I'm hiding from the users because it's a secured code. It's a sensitive information I don't want to disclose. So now like the similar way here, for example, assume that everybody is spending most of their time, okay, by using WhatsApp. Okay, now most of the people, they're spending most of their time with the help of this WhatsApp here. Now you are inside that WhatsApp, you are having so many features are there. We can add some contacts also, we can block some contacts, and we can able to remove some contacts also. We can modify the contacts, we can create a group, we can add the members to the group, and we can send some text message, audio calls, video calls. So much information is there. So many features are there. We are using all those features. Now tell me, do you know, okay, do you know by using which programming language they have implemented that WhatsApp application? Which programming language they have used? We don't know. Which technologies they have used? We don't know. In which database our conversation history will be storing? We don't know. What architecture they have followed? We don't know. What classes they have implemented? We don't know. What methods they have implemented? We don't know. What business logic they have written? We don't know. What tables they are using? We don't know. But we are using that application, we are using all the features. That means what? When coming to that WhatsApp people, they have built the application. Okay, they have built the application according to the customer's requirement. according to the common people's requirement. But at that time, upon giving that information, upon giving the application, they have restricted that functionalities here. They restricted the functionalities. Like, whatever the user interfaces are required, only the user interfaces will be getting visible to the people. But behind that user interface, what business logic they have implemented, they are not exposing that. Because they are not exposing the background implementation part. The back-end implementation part they are not exposing to the people because that is not required to the common people. Suppose, for example, if they are exposing the business logic also, if they're exposing that back-end business logic also, at that time, if you are one of the user of that WhatsApp application, if you are a technical guy, if you know that programming language, then you can able to modify the content and you can able to include some malfunctioning also inside that. Okay? So now in this case, to avoid those kind of things, they are going to be hiding something from that user side. Because to protect our data, to hide the data, to make it secure. For that one, when coming to the abstraction, abstraction is nothing but simply it is providing the interface to the user, but without providing the backend of implementation. Complexity of implementation, it won't provide. Because how complex it is to implement. What kind of problems we have faced upon implementation. What kind of business logic we have written. What kind of architectures we have followed. What kind of classes and methods we have implemented, I don't want to expose. Because that is not required for those people here. Just the need application functionality, that's it. How we have implemented, they no need to bother about that. So that I don't want to expose that. I would like to hide that information from the unauthorized people. So that I can able to make my application safe. The people can't utilize my application for the malfunctioning. We can avoid the fraudulent transactions here. For that reason here, we are going to be exposing something, we are hiding something. But this kind of facility will not be available inside the procedure-oriented programming. That facilities are available inside this object-oriented programming principles. Because not only implementing the functionality, making the data security also. Security is most important. Okay, so that here, what information required for the people we can expose, whatever the information not required for the people we can hide. For that one, we are using a feature called as abstraction. So that when coming to the abstraction, abstraction provides the interfaces to the users, but without providing the complexity of implementation. Okay? Clear? Now make a note of this one. Abstraction provides the interfaces to the users, but without providing the complexity of implementation. Complexity of implementation. See, whenever if they ask in the entry point of view, could you please explain that abstraction, then you should be able to explain in your own words. You can no need to write the sentence which you have collected from the book, because those people can't understand. Okay, you have to explain in your own words. If you require, you have to explain with one scenario also, one example also. Okay, that is most important. Now, so even though upon attending the interviews, okay, if you are going to be reading the information from the book, if you are explaining the same in the entry point of view, those people can't understand. Okay, explain in your own words. Okay, then the people can understand here. Okay, now in this case. So now what is the use of abstraction right now? What we are achieving with the help of abstraction? Security. Okay, now by using abstraction, we can achieve the data security or data hiding. Next, the third one, inheritance. So what do you mean by this inheritance basically? Inheritance. Inheriting in the sense what? Acquiring. Okay, accessing. Okay, acquiring. Accessing the features over here. Like for example, whenever a new baby boy or new baby girl is coming to the world, we are going to be comparing that. The new baby is going to be acquiring some of the features from their parents, from the father or from the mother, like as eyes, face cut, color, nose. Like that, they will be acquiring so many properties or habits from their parents. Okay. Now, in this case here, nothing but the child is going to be acquiring the features of their parents. Like the similar way here also, when coming to the inheritance, inheritance is used to acquire, to access the features of one class into another class. Okay, one class into another class. Why? Because when coming to the object-oriented programming language, every business logic we are implementing in terms of classes and objects. Already sometime before, I have implemented a class with some set of functionalities, but now I need the similar kind of functionalities again. But in this case, instead of rewriting that same again and again and again, we can able to reuse the existing functionalities over here. Okay, I would like to reuse the existing functionalities over here. Now, in this case, for example, come to a general scenario. Now, for example, now sometime before, my client asked me to implement a class. Okay. My client asked me to implement a class. So now my class name is math class or calculator class. Calculator class. This is the class we have implemented sometime before, 6 months back. During the time, based on the requirement, we have implemented the calculate related functionalities, like some addition functionality we have implemented, subtraction functionality we have implemented, and the multiplication functionality we have implemented. These are the three functionalities they need at that time 6 months back. We have implemented, the people are using these functionalities, it is working very fine. Now, the client needs some extensions. The client needs some enhancements functionalities here. So in this case, my client I want that calculator with all the functionalities right now. Then what we can do in this case? Do I need to go to this class and need to add the remaining functionalities? No. Because here, that is the old version. Old version is having only basic 3 methods. New version, in the version 2, I need to add more functionalities over here. That means I need all these functionalities along with some more here. For that one here, what we can do, I am going to be creating another class here. I am creating another class. Okay, I am creating another class with the name calculator extension. Calculator extension class. In this class, what we need to add, I need to provide all these 3 methods, okay, as it is. Along with that, I would like to add the multiplication, so the division and the remainder also. Now, for that one, what needs to be done generally, we are going to be copying these functionalities over here. And then along with that, we are going to be adding the remaining 2. Like the 4th one, division functionality, and the 5th one, modulus functionality. Now, we are going to be adding this 2. Now, tell me, is it a correct mechanism to implement? Now, I am preparing a new class where I am providing all. So now, but these 3 methods are available already inside this. Do I need to reuse or do I need to add again? In this case, if I am going to be copy and pasting this particular functionalities here, you can raise a question, sir, why you are going to be utilizing that? We are having copy and paste option inside your Salesforce instance, and just I want to copy and paste it. Even though you are going to be using that copy and paste option, internally Salesforce will calculate the number of characters. Maximum of how many number of characters we can able to write in an organization? 60 lakhs, not more than that. Inside an organization, we can able to write maximum of 60 lakhs of Apex characters code. Even though the code may be same, code may be different. Keep on Salesforce is counting the number of characters. If it is reaching to 60 lakhs from there onwards, it won't allow you to write some more code. So that here, I don't want to make my code redundant. I don't want to make that code duplicate. So the duplicate code I don't want to allow inside my application. I want to remove this duplicate code. So whatever the two features are required, I would like to write those two features, and then whatever the three functionalities are required, I would like to enhance this functionality. That means I would like to utilize from the calculator class to calculator extension. That means what here we are going to be acquiring. This is the parent and this is the child. Now the parent is having some three functionalities. Child will be having what? Parent features along with that child features also here. Okay. Now, in this case, the child will be having the first three methods are common, as well as it will be having two more methods. Totally 5 methods will be available here. Okay. Now, in this case here also, when coming to the inheritance is used to acquiring the features of one class into another class. Now, in this case, sir, what is the functionality we have achieved over here? What feature we have achieved? Reusability. That means what? Instead of writing the same code again and again and again, we are avoiding the redundant code. We are avoiding the duplicate code so that we can make our code generic, so that we can occupy a very less number of characters, so that the number of lines of code has been reduced. So the compilation time will be getting reduced. Execution time will be getting reduced, so that we can make the application and execution faster. So for that reason here, instead of writing that same code again and again and again, I would like to write the code only once. I want to reuse that code whenever you want, wherever you want. For that reason, to achieve this kind of reusability, we are using this inheritance. So that instead of writing that same code again and again and again, if the code is already built somewhere, then just you can able to reuse that class. Just you can inherit that class into your new class over here. Okay? Now, so for this one, we are going to be using this inheritance feature. Okay? Now make a note of this one. Inheritance feature allows us to acquire or access the features of one class into another. Inheritance feature allows us to acquire or access the features of one class into another. By using inheritance, we can avoid the duplicate code. We can avoid the duplicate code so that we can make the code generic. So that we can make the code generic. Now, the note point. By using inheritance, we can achieve the reusability. By using inheritance, we can achieve the reusability. We can achieve the reusability. Okay, this is the third principle of object-oriented programming. Fourth one, polymorphism. So now tell me, what do you mean by polymorphism? Okay. Now, we can create multiple forms. Okay. Now, basically, polymorphism is not an English word. Okay. It's a Greek word, which is a combination of two words. Poly and then morphism. Poly in the sense what? Many. Morphism in the sense forms. Okay. Multiple forms. Now, so what is the use of this polymorphism basically here? By using this polymorphism, what we can do? What we can achieve? So now polymorphism will allow us to, polymorphism will allow us to create multiple functions with the same name. Okay, polymorphism will allow us to create multiple functions with the same name. For example, when you go to some normal C programming, if you want to implement some functions, like for example, I want to build a small function to perform the addition of two values. So at that time, I'm giving some some addition, add, some integer, some x, some integer, some y. So now I have prepared a function with the name add, which will be receiving two integer values, integer x and the integer y. Now tell me, always the people are doing the addition of two values. I'm having the requirement of adding three values. Sometimes I'm having the requirement of adding 4 values, 5 values, 10 values, 20 values, 1000 values also. At that time, what we can do? To add the 3 values, I would like to write one more function, like as some integer x, integer y, integer z. Can I write this one, 2 functions, can I define with the same name inside your C programming? No. C programming won't allow. Because every function should have a unique name in C programming. It won't allow. But here also I'm doing the add, addition, here also I'm doing the addition. That's what I'm giving the same name, but even though C programming won't allow. In this case, we need to give a different name, like as some add 1. To add the 4 integer values, we have to give some more name, add it 2. Like as to add that x, y, z, and the a. To add the 4 values, we have to give some add 3. I'm giving a different name over here, like to add that x, y, z, a, and b. To add the 5 values. In this case, if I'm defining the multiple function with different names, then how can you remember all these functions? It is very difficult because as a human being, I can't recollect that much of information because I'm having very small chip in our mind, so we can't store this much of information. So for that one here, when coming to that object-oriented programming, it has given a facility that no need to create that multiple functions with the different name, make those function names as same. Here also add, all the places here. So we can create the multiple functions with the same name, but with a different signature. Signature includes what? The number of parameters, order of the parameters, type of the parameters here. Okay, we can able to do that. That facility is available to you. Suppose here I'm using that add function integer x, integer y, 2 values. So here I'm using that add function, like as some string s1, string s2. That means that I'm passing 2 string values. Here it will do the concatenation, here it will do the addition here. Because both are strings, here both are numerical. If it is a numerical, it will do that addition. If it is a strings, it will do concatenation here. Okay. Now, in this case, we can define the multiple functions with the same name, but with a different signature. Signature includes the number of parameters and the type of the parameters and the order of the parameters also. Okay. That facility is available here so that we can have the multiple functions with the same name. That flexibility is available as part of polymorphism. Nothing but multiple functions we can create. Multiple formats of functions we can create with the same name with the different signatures according to the requirement. Okay? Now make a note of this one. By using this feature, we can create multiple functions with the same name but with a different signature. By using this feature, we can create multiple functions with the same name but with a different signature. Signature includes the number of parameters. Parameters means input values. Number of parameters, order of the parameters, and type of the parameters. Signature includes the number of parameters, or order of the parameters, or type of the parameters. Now, So when coming to the polymorphism, we have two types of polymorphism in Apex programming. We have two types of polymorphism. What are those two? I think few people might be aware of. Compile time polymorphism, and this is also called as early binding. This is also called as static binding. Second one, runtime polymorphism. This is also called as the late binding. This is also called as dynamic binding. Now, how can we achieve this compile time polymorphism? Compile time polymorphism can be achieved with the help of overloading feature. Achieved by using overloading. So overloading can be done in two ways. It can be done in two ways. First one is method overloading. Second one is constructor overloading. These are the two features. Now, runtime polymorphism. It can be achieved by using that overriding feature. So now it can be done with the help of method overriding. Okay, method overriding. These are the four principles that we have as part of your object-oriented programming language. Okay, now, so in tomorrow's session we'll see how to define the classes inside your Apex programming, what is the syntax to define the class, and upon defining that class and upon defining the members, what are the various access specifiers are available, what each access specifier indicates, what is the significance of each and every access specifier, we'll see practically.